Hello. Hi. Welcome in to another reading stream. How is the music in the background right now? I'm having to use different background music to last time because it was so copyrighted. But hopefully this time we should be okay with copyright. 1 second. Hey, I mean, we've always called you Achy Anna. We sure have. But welcome in again today. I hope you're all doing good today. No! I'm sorry. Please give me pancakes. So, welcome to my second reading stream. The last one I did was as a charity incentive. This one's for the love of the game. This one, I'm carrying on with it because... Is this a YouTube ad? Is this an ad? I was not aware that this would have ads. Hang on. How's this? Oh, this is good. So I wasn't aware my background music would have ads. So this one I did. It's called Dark Academia Piano and Cello, reading in an old Gothic castle on a stormy night. Let's go. Do you hear nothing? How about now? Ow. And hi, Mojo. That's okay. Thank you for dropping in. That's okay. Thank you very much. Have safe travels. And hour. Thank you for the free stream streak. Are you able to hear anything in the background now? No music. How about now? Is the answer still no? Because in which case, I can try doing this. How about now? No? How about now? Can you hear me now, guys? Can you hear me now? No? What? What do you... what? Why would that be the case? How about now? Is this any better? There it is. Okay, for some reason it wasn't set to... The stream track wasn't set on it, which is weird. There we go. That's better. Okay. Problems aside. Last we left off, for people who would like and need a recap for last time. Last time we read through the first 2 chapters of Life and Death, Twilight Reimagined, the genderbent Twilight book. I was getting so into it, I'm kind of impressed by how good it actually is. Last time we met our main character, Beaufort, Beau Swan, a tall, lanky, pale, kind of loner kind of boy who has just moved back to his hometown to live with his sheriff of the town dad. After caring for his sickly mum for a while. And then his mom finding a new boyfriend and going away and travelling with him. So Beau moves to town to live with his dad. He doesn't hold any resentment towards him. The two don't have issues, they just don't really know each other. Hi Dov. Hi. They give each other space. And what his dad does get him is a cool truck. But then Beau starts school. And at school he finds out about this group of interesting people. There's two families whose children hang out together. Very well-respected families in town. But the children are all beautiful. Incredibly, model-like beautiful. One girl especially takes his interest. A girl somehow even paler than him, named Edith. Edith Cullen, who get to sit next to each other in class, and Edith spends the entire time seething at having to sit next to Beau. The next week she does not come in to school. And then they sit next to each other again. And everything's fine. She speaks to him normally. They work together on a science project. They're both very smart at what they're doing. And then, let me check where we left off at the end of chapter 2. Where we left it exactly was Beau in the parking lot of the school, getting into his truck and pulling away, seeing Edith standing alongside her friends next to their Volvo. To be clear, it's a Volvo. their car is a Volvo. And so, jumping now into chapter 3, we begin reading properly once more. Right now, I'm going to take a quick sip of drink. Also, while we're here quick, in this little quiet environment, I just want to show you guys something. Listen to my new keyboard. Listen to the sounds my new keyboard makes. Okay. And you hear it? Because the answer should be no. That's like rain? No, the rain in the background is from the video that's playing. No. I've got a silent keyboard. I'm actually going to snooze this first ad. Then it's silent. Yep. They got a silent keyboard. I know some people like the clickety-clackities, but other people have said that the clickety-clackities make it difficult to listen. Of course, work in the morning? I didn't know you had work tomorrow. Alright, cool. And hi, May. Hi, May. Welcome in. Thank you for the hydrate. The beautiful one here is you. Yeah, okay, I will do that. Let me do that now, actually, before I forego. And hanging out whilst I recover from even winter's roleplay. I get it. Okay. Oh, I didn't fully read through the chat. I was at work and I had notifications turned off, so I didn't properly read through that yet. Sorry. What else? There you go. I've sent you my list. Love you, Anna. Okay, and now let's begin. Let me yawn first. Okay. Chapter 3. Phenomenon. When I opened my eyes in the morning, something was different. It was the light. It was still the gloomy light of a cloudy day in the forest, but it was clearer somehow. I realized there was no fog obscuring my window. I jumped up to look outside and then groaned. A fine layer of snow covered the yard, dusted the top of my truck, and whitened the road. But that wasn't the worst part. All the rain from yesterday had frozen solid, coating the needles of the trees in crazy patterns and making the driveway a deadly ice slick. I had enough trouble not falling down when the ground was dry. It might be safer for me to go back to bed now. Charlie had left for work before I got downstairs. In a lot of ways, living with Charlie was like having my own place, and I found myself enjoying the space rather than feeling lonely. I threw down a quick bowl of cereal and some orange juice from the carton. I felt excited to go to school, and that worried me. I knew it wasn't the stimulating learning environment I was anticipating, or seeing my new set of friends. If I was being honest with myself, I knew I was eager to get to school because I would see Edith Cullen, and that was very, very stupid. Hi Andrews, thank you for the caca and hydrate and stretch, thank you. I do those quick. Welcome in, hope you're doing good. Okay. I'll try not to interrupt the pace of the story too much. Maybe a few of the other girls were intrigued by the novelty of the new kid, but Edith wasn't a Michaela or an Erica. I was well aware that my league and her league were spheres that did not touch. I was already worried that just looking at her face was giving me an unrealistic expectations that would haunt me for the rest of my life. spending more time looking at her, watching her lips move, marveling at her skin. Listening to her voice was certainly not going to help with that. I didn't exactly trust her anyway. Why lie about her eyes? And of course, there was the whole thing where she might have, at one point, wanted me dead. So I should definitely not be excited to see her again. I took every ounce of my concentration to make it down the icy brick driveway alive. I almost lost my balance when I finally got to the truck, but I managed to cling on to the side mirror and save myself. The sidewalks at school would be complex today. So much potential for humiliation. My truck seemed to have no problem with the black ice that covered the roads. I drove very slowly though, not wanting to carve a path of destruction through Main Street. I have an ad break about to play, so I'm just going to pause for a moment and let that play. And then hopefully we'll be good. Thank you, work. Thank you. Welcome in. Hey. Twilight fucks. Twilight somehow fucks. I've seen a good few of those films, and it's definitely content. It's definitely entertaining content. I wouldn't complain about it. Now we have the ad break playing. So my plan tonight... Forgive me yawning. My plan tonight is to read through chapters 3 and 4. I did 1 and 2 last time. And so I'm going to try and do 3 and 4 today. Try and do 2 chapters at a time. Every time I read through it. And then hopefully I'll be able to give you a second reading stream later this week as well. Oh, Edward, you're so sparkly. Yep, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that very much. Still trying to walk out. I'm still trying to work out the audio with the background music. I think this is good. Welcome back from ads. When I got out of my truck at school, I discovered why I'd had so little trouble. Something silver caught my eye, and I walked to the back of my truck, carefully holding the side for support to examine my tyres. There were thin chains crisscrossed in diamond shapes around them. Charlie had gotten up who knows how early to put snow chains in my truck. I frowned, surprised that my throat suddenly felt tight. That wasn't the way it was supposed to work. I probably should have been the one to think about putting chains on my tyres. If I could figure out how to do that. Or at least I should have helped him with the chore. It wasn't his job. Except that, actually, it kind of was. He was the parent. He was taking care of me, his son. That was how it worked in books and in TV shows. But it made me feel upside down in a strange way. I was standing by the back corner of the truck, struggling to contain the sudden wave of emotion the snow chains had brought on, when I heard a strange sound. It was a high-pitched screech, and almost as soon as I registered it, the sound was already painfully loud. I looked up, startled. I saw several things simultaneously. Nothing was moving in slow motion the way it does in movies. Instead, the adrenaline rush seemed to make my brain work faster, and I was able to absorb in all clear detail the few things all at once. Edith Cullen was standing 4 cars down from me, mouth open in horror. Her face stood out from the sea of faces, all frozen in the same mask of shock. Also, a dark blue van was skidding, tires locked and squealing against the brakes, spinning wildly across the ice of the parking lot. It was going to hit the back corner of my truck, and I was standing between them. I didn't even have time to close my eyes. Just before I heard the shattering crunch of the van folding around the bed of the truck bed, something hit me. Hard. But not from the direction I was expecting. My head cracked against the icy blacktop, and I'd felt something solid and cold pinning me to the ground. I realised I was laying on the pavement behind the tan car I'd parked next to. But I didn't have the chance to notice anything else, because the van was still coming. It had curled gratingly around an end of the truck and, still spinning and sliding, was about to collide with me again. "Come on," she said, the words so... "Come on," she said, the words so quickly I almost missed them, but the voice was impossible not to recognise. Two thin, white hands shot out in front of me, and the van shuddered to a stop a foot from my face, her pale hands fitting exactly into a deep dent in the side of the van's body. Then her hands moved so fast they blurred. One was suddenly gripping under the body of the van, and something was dragging me, swinging my legs around like a ragdoll's, till they hit the tyre of the tan van. There was a groaning metallic thud so loud it hurt my ears. And the van settled, glass popping, onto the asphalt, exactly where, 2 seconds ago, my legs had been. It was absolutely silent for 1 second. For 1 long second. Then the screaming started. In the abrupt chaos, I could hear more than one person shouting my name, but more clearly than the yelling, I could hear Edith Cullen's low, frantic voice in my ear. "Bo, are you alright?" "I'm fine." My voice sounded strange. I tried to sit up and realised she was holding me against the side of her body. I must have been more traumatised than I realised, because I couldn't budge her arm at all. Was I weak with shock? "Be careful," she warned as I struggled. "I think you hit your head pretty hard." I became aware of a throbbing ache centered above my left ear. "Ow," I said, surprised. That's what I thought. Nothing seemed funny to me, but it sounded like she was trying not to laugh. "How in the..." I trailed off, trying to clear my head, get my bearings. "How did you move over here so fast?" "I was standing right next to you, Bo," she said, her voice suddenly serious again. I turned to sit up, and this time she helped me, and then she slid as far from me as she could in the limited space. I looked at her concerned, innocent expression and was disorientated again by her gold-coloured eyes. What was I asking her? And then they found us. A crowd of people with tears streaming down their faces, shouting at each other, shouting at us. "Don't move," someone instructed. "Get Taylor out of the van," someone else shouted. There was a flurry of activity around us. I tried to get up, but Edith's hand pushed my shoulder down. "Just stay put for now." "But it's cold," I complained. It surprised me when she chuckled under her breath. There was an edge to the sound. "You were over there," I suddenly remembered. And her chuckle stopped short. "You were by your car." Her expression hardened abruptly. "No, I wasn't. I saw you." Everything around us was confusion. I could hear the lower voices of adults arriving on the scene, but I stubbornly held on to the argument. I was right, and she was going to admit it. Bo, I was standing with you, and I pulled you out of the way. She stared at me, and something strange happened. It was like the gold of her eyes turned up, like her eyes were drugging me, hypnotizing me. It was devastating in a weird, exciting way. But her expression was anxious. I thought she was trying to communicate something crucial. But that's not what happened, I said weakly. The gold in her eyes blazed again. Please, Bo. Why? I asked. Trust me, she pleaded. I could hear the sirens now. Will you explain everything to me later? Fine, she snapped, suddenly exasperated. Okay. I mumbled, unable to process her mood swings with anything else I was trying to come to terms with. What was I supposed to think? And what I remembered was impossible. It took 6 EMTs and 2 teachers, Miss Varner and Coach Clapp, to shift the van far enough away from us to bring the stretchers in. Edith insisted that she hadn't been touched, and I tried to do the same, but she was quick to contradict me. She told them I'd hit my head, and that made it sound worse than it was, throwing around words like concussion and hemorrhage. I wanted to die when they put that on the neck brace. It looked like the entire school was there, watching soberly as they loaded me on the back of the ambulance. Edith got a ride in the front. It was 1,000 times more humiliating than I'd imagined today would be, and I hadn't even made it to the sidewalk. To make matters worse, Chief Swan arrived before they could get me away safely. I'm glad you're enjoying Hannah. I'm glad you're finding this cozy. Thank you. That means a lot. Bo! He yelled in panic when he recognized me on the stretcher. I'm completely fine, Dad. I sighed. There's nothing wrong with me. He rounded on the closest EMT for a second opinion. While the EMT tried to talk him down, I tuned them out to consider the jumble of absurd images turning in my head. Images that were not possible. When they'd lifted me away from the car, I had seen the deep dent in the car's bumper. A very distinct dent that fit the slim shape of Edith's shoulders. As if she had braced herself against the car with enough force to damage the metal frame. And then there was her family, looking on from the distance, with expressions that ranged from disapproval, Eleanor, to fury, Royal, but held no hint of concern for their little sister's safety. I remembered the sensation of almost flying through the air, that hard mass that had pinned me to the ground. Edith's hand under the frame of the van, like it was holding the van off the ground. I tried to think of a logical explanation that could make sense of what I had just seen. All I could come up with was that I was having a psychotic episode. I didn't feel crazy, but maybe crazy people always feel sane. Naturally, the ambulance got a police escort to the county hospital. I felt ridiculous the whole time they were unloading me. What made it worse was that Edith simply glided through the hospital doors on her own. They put me in the emergency room, a long room with a line of beds separated by pastel-colored curtains. A nurse put a pressure cuff on my arm and a thermometer under my tongue. Since no one bothered pulling the curtain around to give me some privacy, I decided I wasn't obligated to wear the embarrassing neck brace anymore. As soon as the nurse walked away, I quickly unfastened the Velcro and threw it under the bed. There was another flurry of hospital personnel, another stretcher brought onto the bed next to me. I recognized Taylor Crowley from my government class, beneath the blood-stained bandages wrapped tightly around her head. Taylor looked 100 times worse than I felt, but she was staring anxiously at me. Bo, I'm so sorry. I'm fine, Taylor. You look awful. You alright? As we spoke, nurses began unwinding her bloody bandages, exposing dozens of shallow slices all over her forehead and left cheek. She ignored me. I thought I was going to kill you. I was going too fast and I hit the ice wrong. She winced as one nurse started dabbing at her face. Don't worry about it. You missed me. How did you get out of the way so fast? You were there, and you were gone. Edith shoved me out of the way. She looked confused. Who? Edith Cullen. She was standing next to me. As usual, I didn't sound believable at all. Edith? I didn't see her. Wow, it was so fast, I guess. Is she okay? I think so. She's somewhere here, but they didn't make her use a stretcher. Kaka! Hi, Makia! Hi, how are you doing, lovely? I hope you're doing good. I'm very looking forward to our stream on Thursday. I'm so looking forward to it. I thought you were streaming tonight. Or am I wrong? It's okay, don't worry. I know I wasn't crazy. What had happened? There was no way to explain what I'd seen. They wheeled me away then to x-ray my head. I told them there was nothing wrong, and I was right. Not even a concussion. I asked if I could leave, but the nurse said I had to talk to a doctor first. So I was trapped in the ER, harassed by Taylor's constant apologies and promises to make it up for me. No matter how many times I tried to convince her I was fine, she continued to beg for forgiveness. You're streaming now, Makia! Makia, why are you... You're crazy, and you're very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Finally, I closed my eyes and tried to ignore her. Oh, that's so cute. Thank you. Thank you for popping by. Is he sleeping? A musical voice asked. My eyes flew open. Edith was standing at the foot of my bed, her expression more a smirk than a smile. I stared at her, trying to put the pieces together in my head. She didn't look like someone who could stop attacking vehicles with her bare hands. But then, she also didn't look like anyone I'd ever seen before. Hey, Edith, I'm really sorry, Taylor began. Edith lifted a hand to stop her. No blood, no foul, she said, flashing her bright white teeth. She moved to sit on the edge of Taylor's bed, facing me. She smirked again. So, what's the verdict? She asked me. There's nothing wrong with me. They wouldn't let me go, I said. Sorry, I'm back. Hi, Mashi. Hi. Hope you're doing good. Sorry, I just had to have a quick conversation with my dad. There's nothing wrong with me, but they wouldn't let me go, I said. How come you aren't strapped to a gurney like the rest of us? It's all about who you know, she answered. But don't worry, I came to spring you. Then a doctor walked around the corner, and my mouth felt open. She was young, she was blonde. She was more beautiful than any movie star I'd ever seen. Like someone sliced up Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, and Marilyn Monroe, took the best parts and glued them together into the form of one goddess. She was pale, though, and tired looking, with circles under her dark eyes. From Charlie's description, this had to be Edith's mom. So, Mr. Swan, Dr. Cullen asked in a gentle voice, how are you feeling? I'm fine, I said for the last time, I hoped. She walked over to the light board on the wall over my head and turned it on. Your x-rays looked good, she said. Does your head hurt? Edith said you hit it pretty hard. I'm fine, I repeated with a sigh, throwing a quick questioning look Edith's way. She avoided my eyes. The doctor's cool fingers probed slightly along my skull. She noticed when I winced. Tender? She asked. Not really. I'd had worse. I had a low laugh and looked over to see Edith smiling. Well, your father is in the waiting room. You can go home with him now, but come back if you feel dizzy or have trouble with your eyesight at all. Can't I go back to school? I asked, imagining Charlie trying to play nurse. Maybe you should take it easy today. I glanced at Edith. Does she get to go to school? Someone has to spread the good news that we survived, Edith said blithely. Actually, Dr. Cullen corrected, most of the school seems to be in the waiting room. Ugh, I moaned. Dr. Cullen raised her eyebrows. Do you want to stay? No, I insisted, throwing my legs over the side of the bed and hopping down quickly. Too quickly, I staggered, and Dr. Cullen caught me. She was sturdier than she looked. I'm fine, I assured her again. No need to explain that my balance problems had nothing to do with hitting my head. Take some Tylenol for the pain, she suggested as she steadied me. It doesn't hurt that bad, I insisted. It sounds like you were extremely lucky, Dr. Cullen said, smiling as she signed my chart with a flourish. Lucky Edith just happened to be standing next to me, I amended, shooting another glance at the subject of the statement. Oh, well, yes, Dr. Cullen agreed, suddenly occupied with the papers in front of her. And then she looked away at Taylor and walked to the next bed. It made me sure that the doctor was in on it. I'm afraid that you'll have to stay with us just a little bit longer, she said to Taylor, and began checking her cuts. I will hydrate and stretch now. I hope people are enjoying this. In case you don't know, I do have a sleeping redeem. So if at any point you do fall asleep during this stream, there is a redeem to let me know. Not let me know that you've fallen asleep, let me know that you are falling asleep, or plan to. I know that I have a lot of friends streaming right now, so I appreciate anyone who decides. I know this kind of stream is not for everyone, of course, and mostly for people watching the VODs, but I hope you all enjoy being here, and I appreciate the people who are here very much. Thank you. Of course, I know people don't need to chat. I'm glad that people aren't chatting, actually, because it means I can focus more. But yeah, I appreciate it. As soon as the doctor's back was turned, I moved to Edith's side. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I whispered under my breath. She took a step back from me, her jaws suddenly clenched. "Your father was waiting for you," she said through her teeth. I glanced at Dr. Cullen and Taylor. "I need to speak to you alone," I pressed. She glared, but it wasn't the same as that first day, not nearly as homicidal, so I just waited. After a second, she turned her back and stalked quickly down the long room. Long as my legs are, I nearly had to run up to keep up. As soon as we turned the corner into a short hallway, she spun around to face me. "What do you want?" she asked, sounding annoyed. Her eyes were cold. Her unfriendliness intimidated me. My words came out with less certainty than I'd planned. "You owe me an explanation," I reminded her. "I saved your life. I don't owe you anything." I flinched back from the resentment in her voice. Why are you acting like this?" "Bo, you hit your head, and you don't know what you're talking about." Her tone was cutting. Her anger only made me more sure that I was right. Though, there's nothing wrong with my head. She turned up the heat in her glare. "What do you want from me, Bo?" "I want to know the truth," I said. "I want to know why I'm lying for you." "And what do you think happened?" she snapped. It was harder to say the words out loud, or I could hear the crazy. It shook my conviction, but I tried to keep my voice even and calm. "I know that you weren't standing next to me. Taylor didn't see you either, and it's not concussion damage. That van was going to crush us both, but it didn't. It looked like your hands left dents in the side of it, and your shoulders left a dent in the other car. But you're not hurt at all. The van should have smashed my legs, but you were holding it up." It just kept sounding worse and worse. I couldn't continue. She was staring at me, her eyes wide and incredulous, but she couldn't entirely hide the tension, the defensiveness. "You think I lifted a van off you?" Her tone questioned my sanity, but there was something off. It was like a line delivered by a skilled actor, so hard to doubt, but at the same time, the frame of the movie screen reminded you nothing was actually real. I just nodded once. She smiled, hard and mocking. "Nobody will believe that, you know." "I'm not going to tell anybody." Surprise flitted across her face, and the smile faded. "Then why does it matter?" "It matters to me," I said. "I don't like to lie, so that better be a good reason why I'm doing it." "Can't you just thank me and get it over with?" "Thank you," I said, and then folded my arms, waiting. "You're not going to let it go, are you?" "Nope." "In that case, I hope you enjoy disappointment." She scowled at me and I stared back, thoughts scattered by how beautiful her anger was. I was the first to speak, trying to keep myself focused. I was in danger of being totally distracted. It was like trying to stare down a destroying angel. If you were going to be like this about it, I said, why did you even bother? I don't know, she whispered. And then she turned her back on me and walked away. It took me a few minutes until I was able to move. When I could walk, I made my way slowly to the exit at the end of the hallway. The waiting room was unpleasant, like I'd expected. It seemed like every face I knew in Forks was there staring at me. Charlie rushed to my side. I put up my hands. There's nothing wrong with me, I assured him, abruptly aggravated by the whole situation. What did the doctor say? Dr. Cullen saw me and she said I was fine and I could go home. Michaela, Jeremy and Erica were all there, beginning to converge on us. Let's go, I urged. Charlie put one arm up towards me, like he thought I needed support. I retreated quickly to the exit doors, waving half-heartedly at my friends. Hopefully they would forget about this by tomorrow. Unlikely. It was a huge relief, for the first time I'd ever felt that way, to get into the cruiser. We drove in silence. I was so wrapped up in my thoughts that I barely knew Charlie was there. I was positive that Edith's defensive behaviour in the hall was a confirmation of the bizarre things I could still hardly believe I'd seen. When we got to the house, Charlie finally spoke. You'll need to call Renee. He hung his head, guilty. I was appalled. You told Mom? Sorry. I slammed the cruiser's door a little harder than necessary on my way out. My mom was in hysterics, of course. I had to tell her that I felt fine, at least 30 times before she would calm down. She begged me to come home, feeling the fact that home was empty at the moment, but her pleas were easier to resist than I would have thought. I was consumed by the mystery Edith presented, and more than a little obsessed with Edith herself. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I wasn't as eager to escape Forks as I should be, and as any normal, sane person would be. I decided I might as well go to bed early that night. Charlie continued to watch me anxiously, and it was getting on my nerves. I stopped on my way to grab 3 Tylenol from the bathroom. They did help, and the pain eased. I drifted to sleep. That was the first night I dreamed about Edith Cullen. And that brings an end to chapter 3. That went quicker than I expected. But also, did it? I don't know. I don't remember how long chapters took last time to read. They might have been longer before, because of a lot of introduction had to be done. But honestly, about Twilight, the car scene is one of the main things I remember from the first film. So I'm glad that I've got to read it myself now. That's very fun. That was a good chapter. This is a good book. I'm impressed by this. I'm just going to take a moment quick to hydrate and stretch again before I carry on with chapter 4. Depending on how long that takes, I may start on chapter 5 as well tonight. We'll see. Okay, I'm back. Ready to start chapter 4. Chapter 4. Invitations. Have a good sleep, Anna. Thank you for hanging out, and I hope you rest well. I will see you tomorrow for pancakes and D&D. It's going to be... I know tomorrow's going to be a good day. I already know, so I'm excited for it. In my dream it was very dark, and what dim light there was seemed to be radiating from Edith's skin. I couldn't see her face, just her back as she walked away from me, leaving me in the blackness. No matter how fast I ran, I couldn't catch up to her. No matter how loud I called, she never turned. I got more and more frantic to get to her, until that anxiety woke me. It was the middle of the night, but I couldn't sleep again for what seemed like a very long time. After that, she was in my dreams nearly every night, but always on the edges, never within reach. The month that followed the accident was uneasy, tense, and at first embarrassing. I'd found myself the centre of attention for the rest of the week, which really sucked. Taylor Crowley was super annoying, following me around, coming up with different hypothetical ways to make it up to me. I tried to convince her that what I wanted more than anything else was for her to forget about it, especially since nothing had actually happened to me. But she wouldn't give up. She found me between classes and sat at our now crowded lunch table. Michaela and Erica didn't seem to like that. They flashed more side at her than they did at each other, which made me worry that I'd gained another unwelcome fan. Like being into the new kid was the latest fad. No one was worried about Edith. No one followed her around or asked for her eyewitness account. I always included her in my version. She was the hero. She had pulled me out of the way and nearly been crushed too. But all anyone said was that they hadn't even realised she was there until the van pulled away. I wondered a lot about why no one else had noticed her standing so far away by her car, before she was suddenly and impossibly saving my life. There was only one solution I could think of, and I didn't like it. It had to be because no one else was so aware of Edith. No one watched her the way I did. It was pathetic and kind of stalkerish. People avoided Edith the same way they usually did. The Cullens and the Hales sat at the same table they always sat at, not eating, talking only to each other. None of them ever glanced my way anymore. When Edith sat beside me in class, as far away from possible, like usual, she seemed totally unaware that I was sitting there next to her, like my seat was empty. Only now and then, when her fists would suddenly ball up, skin stretched even whiter than over her knuckles, did I wonder if it wasn't as entirely oblivious as she seemed. I wanted very much to continue our conversation from the hospital hallway, and the day after the incident I tried. She'd been so furious when we talked before, and even though I really wanted to know what had actually happened, and I thought I deserved the truth, I also knew that I had been pretty pushy, considering that she had just saved my life and all. I didn't think... Oh. I didn't think I'd thanked her properly. She was already in her chair when I got into biology. She didn't turn when I sat down, just kept staring straight ahead. She showed no sign that she knew I was there. "Hey, Edith," I said. She turned her head half an inch towards me, but her eyes stayed focused on the blackboard. She gave me one little half nod, then turned her face away from me. And that was the last contact I've had with her. though she was there, a foot away from me, every day. I watched her sometimes, unable to stop myself. Always from a distance though, in the cafeteria or parking lot. I watched as her golden eyes grew noticeably darker day by day. Then, abruptly, they were honey-coloured again, and the slow progression towards black would start over. But in class, I gave no more notice that she existed than she showed towards me. It was miserable. And the dreams continued. We're about to have an ad break, so I'll let the ad play out quick. While I take a little sip to keep my throat clean. The ad break hasn't started yet, has it? There it is. There it is. And so... Hi, Apple Cider, welcome in. Hi, I hope you're doing well today. Hi. Got about 15 seconds left of ad break and then I'll get back into it. Hey, Rose, what's up? You okay, baby? Sorry. Bit yawny, bit tired. But I'll be alright to continue. Speaking of continuing, let's move on. Where was I? She wished she hadn't pulled me out of the way of Taylor's van. I couldn't think of any other explanation. Since she obviously preferred me dead, she was pretending that I was. Despite my outright lies, the tone of my emails got my mom worked up. She called a few times, demanding to know I was okay. I tried to convince her it was just the rain that had me down. Michaela, at least, was pleased by the obvious coolness between my lab partner and me. I guess she'd been worried that the shared trauma would have bonded us or something. She got more confident, sitting on the edge of my table to talk before biology class started, ignoring Edith as completely as Edith ignored us. The snow washed away for good after that one dangerously icy day. Michaela complained that she'd never got to stage her big snowball fight, but she was happy that the beach trip would soon be possible. The rain continued heavily, though, and the weeks passed. I hadn't really been aware of how much time was passing. Most days looked the same. Grey, green, and more grey. My stepdad had always complained that Phoenix didn't have seasons, but as far as I could tell, Forks was much worse. I had no idea spring was anywhere near happening until I was walking to cafeteria with Jeremy one rainy morning. "Hey, Bo." "Hey, Bo?" he asked. I wanted to hurry up out of the rain, but Jeremy was barely shuffling forward. I slowed my pace to match his. "Oh, what's up, Jeremy?" "I was just wondering if anyone's asked you to the spring dance yet. You know, it's girls' choice." "Oh, no." "Ah. Do you think Michaela will ask you?" "I hope not," I said, maybe a little too fast. He looked up at me, surprised. Why not? I don't do dances. Oh. We shuffled forward for a minute in silence. He was thoughtful. I was impatient to get out of the drizzle. Do you mind if I tell her that? He asked. No, that's probably a good idea. I don't want to have to tell anyone no if I don't have to. Okay. When's the dance again? We were close to the cafeteria now. He pointed to a bright yellow poster advertising the dance. I'd never noticed it before. But it was curling around the edges and a little washed out, like it had been up for a while. A week from Saturday, he said. I was pretty sure Jeremy had already said something when, the next morning, Michaela was not her usual bubbly self in English. At lunch, she sat away from both Jeremy and me, and she didn't say too much to anyone. She stayed quiet as she walked with me to biology, but she came over like usual to sit on the edge of my lab table. As always, I was too aware of Edith sitting close enough to touch, but still so far away she might as well have been a product of my imagination. So, Michaela said, looking at the floor instead of at me. Michaela said that you don't do dancing. Jeremy said that you don't do dances. Yeah, that's true. She looked at me then, her expression hurt and a little angry. I hadn't even told her no yet, and I already felt guilty. Oh, she said. I thought he was making it up. Sorry, no. Why would he make up a story like that? She frowned. I think he wants me to ask him. I forced a smile. You should go. Jeremy's great. She shrugged. I guess. Then she took a deep breath and looked at me straight in the eye with a quick, nervous smile. Would this I don't dance thing change if I was the one asking you to go? From the corner of my eye, I saw Edith's head suddenly tilt in my direction, like she was listening to my answer too. It took me a little too long to respond. I still felt guilty, but mostly distracted. Was Edith listening? Sorry again. Michaela's face fell. Would it change if someone else asked you? Did Edith see how Michaela's eyes flickered in her direction? No, it's a moot point. I'm going to be in Seattle that day. I needed to get out of town. 2 Saturdays from now is the perfect time to go. Does it have to be that weekend? Michaela asked. Yeah, but don't worry about me. You should ask Jeremy. He's much more fun than I am. Yeah, I guess, she mumbled, but she turned to walk back to her seat. I watched her shoulders slump forward, and I felt horrible. I closed my eyes and pushed my fingers against my temples, trying to force Michaela's dejected posture out of my head. Mrs. Banner started talking. I sighed and opened my eyes. Edith was staring straight at me. That familiar expression of frustration was even more obvious now in her black eyes. I stared back, surprised, expecting her to look away. She didn't. Her eyes kept boring into mine, like she was trying to find something really important inside them. I continued to stare also, totally unable to break the connection, even if I wanted to. My hand started to shake. Miss Cullen, the teacher asked, looking for the answer to some questions I hadn't heard. The Krebs cycle, Edith answered, seeming reluctant as she turned to look at Mrs. Banner. I put my head down, pretending to stare at my book. As soon as her eyes released me, It bothered me, the rush of emotion pulsing through me, just because she'd happened to look at me for the first time in 6 weeks. It wasn't normal. I was actually pretty pathetic, and probably more than that, unhealthy. I tried not to be aware of her for the rest of the class, or since that was impossible, I tried not to let her know I was aware of her. When the bell finally rang, I turned away to stack up my books, expecting her to rush out as usual. Bo? Her voice shouldn't sound so familiar, like I'd been hearing it all my life instead of just an hour here or there for a few weeks ago. I turned slowly towards her, not wanting to feel what I knew would feel. Not wanting to feel what I knew I would feel when I looked at her too perfect face. I'm sure my expression was guarded. Hers was unreadable. She didn't say anything. Yes, I asked. She just looked at me. So, are you... or are you not talking to me again? Not, she said, but her lips curled into a smile, her dimples flashing. Okay. I looked away, down at my hands, then over at her. This conversation wasn't making much sense. I'm sorry, she said, and there was no jerk in her voice now. I'm being very rude, I know, but it's better this way, really. I looked at her again. Her expression was totally serious now. I don't know what you mean. It's better if we're not friends, she exclaimed. Trust me. My eyes narrowed. I'd heard that one before. She seemed surprised by my reaction. What are you thinking? She asked. I guess that it's too bad you didn't figure this out earlier. I guess that it's too bad you didn't figure this out earlier. Save yourself the regret. Regret? My answer seemed to have caught her off guard. Regret for what? Regret for what? For not letting Taylor's van crush me when I had the chance. She looked completely shocked. She stared at me for a minute, wide-eyed. And when she finally spoke, she almost sounded mad. You think I regret saving your life? The words were quiet, just under her breath, but still pretty intense. I glanced quickly towards the front of the room, where a couple of kids were still lingering. I caught one of them looking at us. He looked away and I turned back to Edith. Yeah, I said just as quietly. I mean, what else? Seems kind of obvious. She made the strangest sound. She exhaled through her teeth, and it was like a hiss. She still looked mad. You're an idiot, she told me. Well, that was my limit. It was bad enough that I was so fixated on this girl. Bad enough that I thought about her all the time, dreamed about her every night. I didn't need to sit here like a moron she thought I was and just stare while she insulted me. I grabbed my books and lurched out of my chair, knowing all the while that she was right. I was an idiot, because I wanted to stay. Even if all I got to hear was more abuse from her, I needed to get out of the room as fast as possible. So of course, I tripped over the threshold and half fell through the doorway, my books scattering across the sidewalk. I stood there for a second with my eyes closed, thinking about leaving them. Then I sighed and bent to pick them up. Edith was there. She had already stacked them in a pile, which she offered to me. I took them without really looking at her. "Thanks," I mumbled. "You're welcome," she answered. Still mad, sounded like. I straightened up and hurried to Jim without looking back. Jim didn't make it my day any better. We've moved on to basketball. "Hi, Suda." "Hi, Suda. Hope you're doing good." "Ari, hi, Ari. Hope you're doing good today. Hi, hi. It's lovely to see you all." No, I'm sorry about your streak. I'm sorry. Also, I'm going to take a moment quick to just go and clean my nose, just because my nose feels really runny right now. So I'll be back in a moment to do that. Hi, I'm back. I'm back now. Right, where was I? On the first day, even though all of them had seen me play volleyball, the other kids still seemed to think I should be good. It didn't take them long to figure out the truth. They never passed to me now, which was good. But with all the running, I still managed to have a few accidents per game. Today was worse than yesterday, because I couldn't concentrate on my feet. All I could think of was Edith. It was a relief, as usual, when I was finally free to leave. I couldn't wait to be back inside my truck, alone. The truck was in pretty decent shape, all things considered. I'd had to replace the tail lights, though, after the accident, but that was it. If the paint job wasn't already hopeless, maybe I would have had to do something about the new scrapes. Taylor's parents had to sell her van for parts. "Hi, Seal. Hi, Seal. Welcome in. What a cutie listening to me read. I hope you had a good stream today. Thank you for popping by." I rounded the corner and nearly had a heart attack. Someone small and thin was leaning against the side of my truck. I skidded to a stop, then took a deep breath. It was just Erica. I started walking again. "Hey, Erica," I called. "Hi, Bo." "What's up?" I asked as I went to unlock the door. I glanced down at her and fumbled my keys. She looked really uncomfortable. I was wondering if you would go to the spring dance with me." I carefully inserted the car key into the lock. "Sorry, Erica, I'm not going to the dance." I had to look at her then. Her face was down, her black hair hiding her eyes. "Oh, okay. Because I'm going to be in Seattle," I said quickly, trying to make her feel better. "It's the only day I can go, so, you know." "Oh well, I hope it's fun and all." She glanced up from under her hair. "Okay," she repeated, but her voice was slightly more cheerful now. "Maybe next time." "Sure," I agreed, and then immediately regretted it. Hopefully she wouldn't take that too literally. "See ya," she said over her shoulder. She was already escaping. I waved, but she didn't see it. I heard a low laugh. Edith was walking past the front of my truck, looking straight forward, her eyes not betraying even a hint of a smile. I froze for a second. I wasn't prepared to be so close to her. I was used to bracing myself before biology, but this was unexpected. She kept walking. I jerked the door open and climbed in, slamming it a little too hard behind me. I revved the deafening engine twice and reversed into the aisle. Edith was in her car already, 2 spaces down, sliding out into the lane in front of me, cutting me off. She stopped there, to wait for her family, I assumed. I could see the 4 of them walking this way. They were still all the way back in the cafeteria. I looked in my rearview mirror. A line was beginning to form right behind me. Taylor Crowley, all in her newly acquired used Sentra, waving. I ducked my head and pretended I couldn't see her. While I was sitting there, focusing all my efforts on not staring at the driver in front of me, I heard a knock on my passenger side window. It was Taylor. I glanced at my mirror again, confused. Her Sentra was still running, the door left opened. I leaned across the cab to crank the window down. It was stiff. I got it halfway there, then gave up. Sorry, Taylor, I can't really move. I'm pinned in. I gestured to the Volvo. Obviously, there was nothing I could do. Oh, I know. I just wanted to ask you something while we were trapped here. She grinned. What was it with this school? Was it some kind of practical joke? Hazing the new guy? Will you go to the spring dance with me? She continued. I'm not going to be in town, Taylor. I realised I sounded too sharp. I had to remember it wasn't Taylor's fault that Michaela and Erica had already used up my patience. Yeah, Michaela told me that, she admitted. Then why? She shrugged. I was hoping you were just letting her down easy. Okay, it totally was her fault. Sorry, Taylor, I said, not feeling nearly as bad as I had with Michaela and Erica. I'm not going to the dance. That's cool, she said, unfazed. We still have prom. Before I could say anything, she was walking back to her car. I could feel the red patches staining my face. Straight ahead, Archie, Royal, Eleanor, and Jessamine were all sliding into the Volvo. In the rearview mirror, I could see Edith's eyes staring at me. They were crinkled around the edges, and her shoulders were shaking with laughter. It was like she'd heard everything Taylor had said, and found my splotchy reaction hilarious. I revved my engine, wondering how much damage it would do to the Volvo and the car beside me if I had just muscled my way through and made my escape. I was pretty sure my truck could win that fight. But they were all in, and Edith was speeding away with her nearly silent engine. I tried to concentrate on something else, anything else, as I drove home. Would Michaela ask Jeremy to the dance? Would he blame me if she didn't? Was Taylor serious about the prom? What would be my excuse for that one? Maybe I could work out a visit to my mom, or maybe she could come here. What was I going to make for dinner? We hadn't had chicken in a while. But each time I finished answering my own question, my mind went right back to Edith. By the time I got home, I'd run out of new questions, so I gave up trying to think of something else. I decided to make chicken and enchiladas because it would keep me busy for a while. I didn't have that much homework. It also forced me to concentrate on all the dicing, chicken, chilies, onions. All the while, though, I kept running through biology class again, trying to analyze every word she'd spoken to me. But what did she mean if it was better if we weren't friends? My stomach dropped when I realised the only thing she could have meant. She must know how obsessed I was with her. It wasn't like I was hiding it very well. She didn't want to lead me on, so we couldn't even be friends. Because she didn't want to hurt my feelings in the same way I'd hurt Michaela and Erica today. Taylor seemed fine. Edith didn't want to feel that guilt, because she wasn't interested in me at all. Which made perfect sense, obviously, because I wasn't interesting. My eyes were starting to sting and tear from the onions. I grabbed a dish towel, ran it under the faucet, and then rubbed it across my eyes. It didn't really help. I was boring. I knew this about myself, and Edith was the opposite of boring. This wasn't her secret. This wasn't about her secret, whatever it was. If I even remembered any of that insane moment clearly. At this point, I almost believed the story I'd told everyone else. It made a lot more sense than what I'd thought I'd seen. But she didn't need a secret to be out of my league. She was also brilliant and mysterious and beautiful and completely perfect. If she was, in fact, able to lift a full-sized van with one hand, it didn't really matter. Either way, she was a fantasy, and I was the very most mundane kind of reality. And that was fine. I could leave her alone. I would leave her alone. I would get through my self-imprisoned sentence here in Purgatory, and then hopefully some school in the southwest, or possibly Hawaii, would offer me a scholarship. I tried to think about palm trees and suns while I finished dinner. Charlie seemed worried when he came home and smelled the green peppers, but he came around after the first bite. It was kind of a strange feeling, but also a good feeling, watching as he started to trust me in the kitchen. "Dad?" I asked when he was almost done. "Yeah, boy?" I wanted to let you know that I'm going to Seattle a week from Saturday, just for the day. I'd want to ask permission. It set a bad precedent, but the statement form sounded rude, so I added, "If that's okay." "Why?" He sounded surprised, like he couldn't imagine any reason why I would... That he couldn't imagine any reason that would make someone want to leave Forks' town limits. "Well, I wanted to get a few books. The library here is pretty limited, and maybe some warmer clothes. I had a little extra money since, thanks to Charlie, I hadn't had to buy a car, though the truck did need a bigger gasoline budget than I expected. And the cold weather clothes I picked up in Phoenix seemed to have been designed by people who'd never actually lived in temperatures below 70, but had once had such a climate described to them. That truck probably doesn't get any very good gas mileage," he said, echoing my thoughts. "I know. I'll stop in Montesano and Olympia, and Tacoma if I have to." "Are you going all by yourself?" "Yeah." "Seattle is a big city. You could get lost," he warned. "Dad, Phoenix is 5 times the size of Seattle, and I can read a map. Don't worry about it." "Do you want me to come with you?" I wonder if he was really that worried about me. If he just thought of all the Saturdays he left me alone were adding up to neglect. Probably worried. I was sure that in my head he still pictured me as a 5-year-old most of the time. "That's okay. It's not going to be very exciting." "Will you be back in time for the dance?" I just stared back at him until he got it. It didn't take him long. "Oh, right." "Yeah," I said. I didn't get my balance issues from my mom. The next morning at school, I parked as far as possible from the shiny silver Volvo. I would keep my distance. I wouldn't notice her anymore. She'd have nothing to complain about from me from here on out. As I slammed the truck door shut, I lost hold on the key and it splashed down in a puddle at my feet. As I bent to retrieve it, a pale hand flashed out and grabbed it first. I jerked upright, almost smacking my head into her. Edith Cullen was right there, leaning casually against my truck. "How do you do that?" I gasped. "Do what?" She held out my hand. She held out my key while she spoke. As I reached out for it, she dropped it into my palm. Appear out of thin air. "Bo, it's not my fault you are exceptionally unobservant." Her voice was just a murmur, muted velvet, and her lips were holding back a smile, like she thought I was hilarious. How was I supposed to ignore her when she wouldn't ignore me? That was what she wanted, right? Me out of her long, bronzy hair. That wasn't what she'd said to me yesterday. We couldn't be friends. Then why was she talking to me? Was she sadistic? Was this her idea of fun? Torture the idiotic kid she could never possibly care about? I stared at her, frustrated. Her eyes were light again today, a deep golden honey colour. My thoughts got confused, and I had to look down. Her feet were just a half foot from mine, oriented towards me, unmoving, like she was waiting for a response. I looked past her, toward the school, and said the first dumb thing that came to my mind. "Why the traffic jam last night?" "I thought you were supposed to be pretending I don't exist." "Ah, that was for Taylor's sake. She was figuratively dying for her chance at you." I blinked. What? Irritation from yesterday's memory bled into my voice. I hadn't thought Edith and Taylor were friends. Did Taylor ask her? That didn't seem likely. "And I'm not pretending you don't exist," she continued like I hadn't spoken. I met her eyes again, trying hard to keep my mind focused, no matter how golden they seemed, or how long her lashes were against her pale violet lids. "I don't know what you want from me," I told her. It was annoying how my thoughts seemed to explode straight through my lips when I was near her. I had no filter at all. I would never have spoken this way to another girl. The amused half-smile disappeared, and her face was suddenly guarded. "Nothing," she said too quickly, almost like she was lying. "Then you probably should have let the van take me out. Easier that way." She stared for a second, and when she answered, her voice was cold. "Bo, you are utterly ridiculous. You are utterly absurd. I must be right about the torture thing. It was just a way for her to pass the time in this boring town. An easy mark." I was past her in one long stride. "Wait," she said, but I forced myself to keep moving, not to look back. "I'm sorry, that was rude," she said, somehow right next to me, keeping pace now my legs were probably twice as long as hers. I'm not saying it wasn't true, but it was rude to say out loud. "Why won't you leave me alone? I wanted to ask you something, but you sidetracked me." I sighed and slowed, though she didn't seem like she was having a hard time keeping up. "Fine. I was such a sucker. What do you want?" "I was wondering if a week from Saturday, you know, the day of the spring dance." I stopped, wheeling to look down at her. "Is this funny to you?" She stared up at me, seeming oblivious to the drizzling rain that was falling. She was apparently wearing no makeup at all. Nothing smudged or ran. Of course, her face was just that perfect naturally. For a second I was actually angry. Angry that she had to be so beautiful. Angry that her beauty had made her cruel. Angry that I was the object of her cruelty. And even though I knew it, I still couldn't successfully walk away from her. Her amused expression was black, the hint of dimples reddening her cheeks. "Will you please allow me to finish?" she asked. "Walk away," I told myself. I didn't move. "I heard that you were going to Seattle that day, and I wondered if you wanted a ride." That was not what I was expecting. "Huh? Do you want to ride to Seattle?" I wasn't sure where her joke was heading now. "With who?" "Myself, obviously." She enunciated every syllable. "Myself, obviously." Like she thought maybe English wasn't my first language. Why? Was there a pun? Where was the punchline? "Well, I was planning to go to Seattle in the next few weeks, and to be honest, I'm not sure if your truck can make it." Finally, I was able to start walking again, goaded by the insult to my truck. "Make fun of me all you want, but leave the truck out of it," I said. Again, she kept up easily. "Why would you think that I'm making fun of you?" she asked. "The invitation is genuine." "My truck is great, thanks." "Can your truck make it to Seattle on 1 tank of gas?" Before the truck, I'd never cared one way or another about my car. About any car. But I could feel a prejudice against Volvos forming. "I don't see how that's a problem." "The wasting of finite sources is everyone's problem," she said primly. "Seriously, Edith." I felt a charge go through me as I said her name out loud, and I didn't like it. "I can't keep up with you. I thought you didn't want to be my friend." "I said it would be better if we weren't friends, not that I didn't want to be." "Oh, well, great, so that's all cleared up." Thick sarcasm. I realized I had stopped walking again. I looked down at her rain-washed face, clean and perfect, and my thoughts stuttered to a halt. "It would be more prudent for you not to be my friend," she explained. "But I'm tired of trying to stay away from you, Bo." There was no humor in her face now. Her eyes were intense, narrowed, the long lines of her lashes stark black against her skin. Her voice had a strange heat to it. I couldn't remember how to breathe. "Will you accept a ride with me to Seattle?" she demanded, her voice still burning. I couldn't speak, so I just nodded. A quick smile reshaped her face, and then she was serious again. "You really should stay away from me," she warned. "I'll see you in class." She spun on her heel and walked quickly back the way we'd came. And that brings an end to chapter 4. That's all the reading for today. I want to check something quick. How long was stream last time when I did this? Highlight. The last one was 2.5 hours long, and this one is 1 hour 40. That's fine. That's fine. I said that I was only going to read these 2 chapters today, and so that's all I'm going to do, because I'm feeling tired, and I've had a long day. I've had a long, stressful day. But this was very nice. This was so incredibly nice to do. I'm really enjoying doing this. I'm still barely anywhere into the book. Looking at it from this way with the bookmark. I'm how many pages in? 83 pages in to a 508-page book. Ooh, I am not even a fifth of the way done with this book. We've got a good few more streams to do with this, I think. Yeah. Thank you all for hanging around today. Thank you to everyone sleeping, and thank you to everyone watching the VOD of this. I feel like maybe if this is shorter, it'll be more consumable to have on in the background. But thank you a lot. I always appreciate everyone whenever they come in for a stream, but especially streams like this, which isn't my normal kind of content. I will finish up now and raid out. Let's see who... I know I have a few friends live right now. And here's the thing, it's one of my friends' anniversary for streaming today. Moida, so much Moida. But I don't want to potentially wake the people who might be sleeping by bringing them to... No, last time I was there it was very nice. Yes, we're gonna go raid Makia. Thank you everyone for dropping by today. I will, same as last time, upload the VOD as a highlight and to YouTube. And I'll see you all another time.